Hello and welcome to Express Sports Podcast. You're listening to Game Time, and we are back. We are back after a week of just maybe enjoying Diwali's festive days would be a stretch. But while we were away for Diwali, India won their ninth match of the World Cup. The group stage or the league stage of the World Cup concluded, and we are in the finale. And to mark this week, to mark this big week in world cricket, the 50 over cricket especially, we will be coming with the episode every morning. And Amit Kamath is in the house. Amit, it's not something that we have done so often for cricket, but it is an exciting week. I mean, it's been a thoda sa boring at times league stage, I'll be honest. But here we are with the two semi-final lineups. India versus New Zealand on Wednesday. Good old South Africa versus Australia rivalry continuing on Thursday. Two great semifinals, but that's not what we're going to talk about today in our first of the weekly series, Amit, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Mir, you correctly summed it up that it got boring at parts. But I mean, it was like a Glenn Maxwell innings where he's playing without any legs. The tournament has been like that. I mean, it's still chugging along, runs are still coming. There are hits and misses. But then, I mean, it's not what the purists would have preferred, because I see a lot of complaints about how there have been no real close finishes except for maybe a handful of games. So yeah, that's been true. I mean, I don't know whether we should be unfair on teams like Afghanistan and Netherlands and say that they've upset any teams at the World Cup, because it's been a free-for-all sort of a tournament. And so it's so weird that we look at a team like Pakistan, which has finished fifth, and they're going back home to almost face the gallows. And you have Afghanistan, which has finished sixth, and they are going home jubilant. You have Netherlands, which is 10th, and they are going home like in a celebratory mood. In fact, people are asking them how they plan to sustain the momentum, whereas Pakistan is looking so deep into the mirror that they are probably wondering, like, how do you come back from such a devastating defeat?
I mean, it's a massive contrast, I guess. I mean, some of the things explain themselves. Of course, Pakistan came here with the hope of at least reaching the semi-final, if not reaching the final and lifting the World Cup. For Afghanistan and Netherlands, of course, the definition of success was very different. We'll try to come to all that one by one. But first, I mean, of course, I missed it in the intro. I hope all of our listeners, all of you guys have had a great Diwali weekend. It's still, the festivities are continuing. Firecrackers will resume at the Wankhede on Wednesday. Plenty of firecrackers that the Indian team provided throughout the last month or so. And I think, Amit, that was easily the highlight. I mean, Maxwell, of course, the craziest innings we've seen in a long time. I think हमारे generation का like Kapil Dev moment sort of thing. The only difference being that everyone saw this, while no one saw Kapil Dev's 175 against Zimbabwe.
In fact, Mir, I think this knock from Maxwell was more like closer to maybe, I don't know, Dean Jones in the tight test than Kapil Dev, because of just how much.
I mean, no, it's just an apple-to-apple comparison, World Cup and the scenario. That's it.
Fair enough.
But no, I mean, that's what I mean. We are not here to talk about one innings in particular or India, because the India will be talking about in tomorrow's episode, while we'll be looking forward to the semi-final against New Zealand. So, I mean, we best thought that we'll kind of, touch upon the two teams who were heavyweights, who were favorites in a way to at least make it to the last four, if not win the title, England and Pakistan. And the disastrous campaigns we've had. And again, like Amit said, Pakistan, we're saying it's disastrous, but this still they finished fifth. But Amit, काफी खतरनाक reaction रहा है back home in Pakistan, not our home, just so that we are clear.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the way the cookie has kind of crumbled, right? The quantity of nihari that the players have consumed has been dredged out. The amount of biryani they've been eating has been repeatedly questioned. Mothers or sisters, or as we call them, maas and behens, have been invoked by former cricketers. Chief selectors have lost their positions. They've been unceremoniously asked to quit, I guess. We've had the chairman of the board coming under attack for leaking WhatsApp chats with the captain of the team, because there was a rumor that the captain of the team had stopped, or the chairman of the board had stopped taking Babar Azam's calls. So this was a campaign that was maybe powered by Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And so comical it was that their fate was sealed by the toss of a coin in the final match.
It's just typical Pakistan, right? It's a team that, of course, is always unpredictable, not just in cricket, in almost every sport that they play. And to add to the number of things that have gone wrong, I mean, just now as we are recording, a few minutes before that, Morni Morkel has resigned as Pakistan's bowling coach. I'm very keen to see what happens to Mickey Arthur because, to be honest, like I found his behavior throughout this World Cup pathetic. I mean, all the kind of excuses that he's come up with. एक के बाद एक लगातार excuses and I think what it was that A Sports, the Pakistani channel, which came up with brilliant everyday analysis of the World Cup, especially Pakistan's matches, and they had pointed out how he came into this World Cup, how he became, in fact, Pakistan's coach on back of terrible form. Like he doesn't have a great record as a coach anyway, and questions were asked about his appointment and the logic behind it. And I mean, from saying stuff like the lack of fans in the stands, which was an issue, चलो हम इतना देंगे बट ऐसा भी नहीं है कि बाकी सब देशों के हजारों की तादाद में लोग आए यहाँ पर देखने सो इट्स नॉट लाइक अ डिसाइसिव फैक्टर then he said stuff about being confined to the hotel and it almost feels like COVID all over again, to all the sorts of things that you can think of, silly excuses to kind of justify their pathetic campaign. And that was disappointing. Although it was shocking to see how Pakistan's bowling more than batting actually crumbled. Amit. That was something I was really surprised with because the bowling has always been regarded very highly, especially from people of generations of you and I who've grown up watching Wasim Akram, Waqar Yunus and all those legends. And to see their bowling go totally pear-shaped at this World Cup was kind of shocking.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, you look at what Ramiz Raja said, after their ouster was confirmed. He mentioned how, like, you've come to this World Cup with only maybe two proper pacers. You have other people, but then Haris Rauf has looked completely out of. I think he just looked low on confidence all throughout. And that just put pressure on Shaheen Shah Afridi. Every time he would bowl a good over, on the other end, Haris Rauf would come and he would get thumped for like three fours or something like that. And then
most expensive bowler in single edition of the World Cup. So
absolutely.
That says a lot.
In fact, I think Haris Rauf's biggest contribution must have come with the bat in the England game, where he provided some, late fireworks and some entertainment, which again, I mean, it's been such a farcical World Cup for them that when Haris Rauf was, batting and he was hitting shots cleanly to the fence against England with the last wicket on the line, the camera panned to the rest of the batting crew and Babar Azam and these guys, they weren't enjoying that. They looked like they were being shown that as a punishment for what they were lacking, because if your 10th and 11th bowlers can come and play such a big knock and they can hit so cleanly, what the hell were you guys doing? So I mean, that is obviously one factor. And as I was saying, Ramiz Raja, when he was asked about, so he was very hilariously asked if there was even one positive takeaway that he could take from the World Cup, and he said no, not really. And then he spoke about how back in the domestic circuit they have around 13 to 14 bowlers, fast bowlers that he had counted, who could easily bowl over 140 kmph, but when you come to a occasion like the World Cup, you have barely like maybe two people, and you have one injury to Naseem, and you are suddenly just two bullets in your chamber that you are bringing to a gunfight.
Absolutely, and we spoke about Mickey Arthur and his excuses. काफी tedious हो गए थे after a point, and one of the things he said that the absence of Naseem Shah, their fast bowler, and perhaps the most informed bowler Pakistan has had in a while. His absence actually kind of spoiled the equilibrium of the team, are his words. And that's also a pathetic thing to say because I think every team you see in this World Cup, they've gone through phases where they've had to reach it. And none of them have really impacted so much. New Zealand, they didn't have Kane Williamson. Still, they managed and they're through the semi-finals. Australia had to do without Mitch Marshall and Maxwell for a few matches, and they're okay now. They're doing pretty well.
And Glenn Maxwell picked up an injury that you would probably associate with a Pakistan cricket team player, some absolute freak injury with a golf cart.
Exactly. And all these teams, I mean, and of course, we should mention India because India have been without Hardik Pandya. He's the main man who kind of gives the perfect equilibrium to quote-unquote Vicky Arthur. So it's just weird excuse, and it kind of sums up just the whole mindset with which he came into this tournament, and kind of I think that mindset should have rubbed off the team. I mean, they had a chance until the penalty made match. I guess they had a decent enough chance to kind of turn things around. They could, experts, of course, are in a better place to kind of analyze what went wrong for them. But overall, yeah, it's just a strange campaign for them, Amit.
Yeah, if you look at the teams that they've beaten, they've only actually beaten Netherlands, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, obviously, they are another team from the subcontinent which has gone through like a identity crisis. So they've had that, and they've beaten Bangladesh. Bangladesh also has been very below par. And I guess New Zealand was the one team that they beat, and that through DLS method, because we all remember the rain that interrupted and gave them a slice of good fortune. So yes, we know that we will say that they finished fifth. They were, maybe if they had scored 338 runs in the 6.4 overs in their last match, they could have even qualified. Or if they had won the toss and selected to bat, maybe they would have favorable conditions. All of that I understand. But I mean, you look at their actual numbers in the standings, and they tell you a lot about what sort of a World Cup this has been for them.
I mean, to be honest, like when we look at the overall picture, like you said, fifth doesn't look bad, but I think it's just the manner in which their whole campaign unfolded is what is weird. And always कुछ ना कुछ चल ही रहा था. ऐसा नहीं, stability नहीं लग रही थी कभी भी उनके camp में से. And I mean, like you said, इंतजाम होता, the chairman of selectors, उसके ऊपर पहले निशान आया. फिर Babar Azam was throughout under the cosh. His captaincy, who knows what happened to his captaincy now that Pakistan are out before the semi-finals. So yeah, quite unstable. But they weren't the only team that was unstable. Amit, someone had a worse tournament than Pakistan. We've been talking about Pakistan as if you mentioned Murphy's Law for Pakistan. I don't know what you'll say for England.
I think England, as defending champions, I mean, this was probably the worst way you could defend your title, right? Because I think for the longest time, they were rooted to the 10th spot in the 10 team standings, which is, I guess, shocking. At some point, I'm pretty sure Ben Stokes, while batting, would have been telling himself, why the hell did I agree to come to be talked out of retirement for this? I was happy. I wanted to only play select formats. This was not one of them. But I listened to these guys. You've had somebody like a David Willey announcing that he's going to retire midway. Then later on going on saying that he was also very unsure about even flying to India. It's mismanagement. It's nothing else. It's just official mismanagement. England cricket team for once has looked like England football team when they go to a big ticket tournament. I mean, they are struck by the inevitable Murphy's Law.
I mean, in England's case, I think I can somehow kind of place a finger as to where it all started going downhill for them. And I think it's safe to say that it was after the toss against South Africa at Wankhede. It was a bizarre decision by Joss Butler to bowl first. And then we all remember what happened, the complete carnage that South Africa unleashed on them, scoring 399, I think, setting a target of 400. Yeah, and then England not even getting anywhere close to that. And uske baad, they just, I think mentally they lost it after that match because there wasn't any stomach for a fight left in them. And as is the case again with just Pakistan, वैसे England का, then that whole unhappiness and everything, it just comes out, which was too apparent. It was David Willey, right, who wasn't also given a contract, and for the English cricket board to, in middle of a World Cup campaign, to tell one of their players that, look, you're not in our plans going forward after the World Cup. And that was the message clear cut to David Willey. That just kind of shows how well thought out everything was within the England cap. And yeah, easily the worst defense of any World Cup in any sport, I think.
Oh man. But yeah, Mir, what else did you think went wrong with England in terms of batting and even stuff on the field? Because you've covered the World Cup, so you've seen the contours of the England team clicking or not clicking.
I think it's just, I mean, I'm not a big fan of over-analyzing stuff. Let's say in the case of Pakistan, I won't really get into stuff. ये बैट्समैन ने ऐसा शॉट नहीं मारा इसीलिए ये बैक हुआ and all those things. But in England's case, I think it was just a very collective loss of form, I guess. And then when you get into that losing habit in a long tournament like a World Cup, when there are plenty of off days between matches, which gives you time to brood over things. ऐसा नहीं कि आप आज एक मैच खेल रहे हो. Difference in the IPL is that, right? I mean, I think one of the reasons why plenty of teams, we see a lot of kind of end of the season in the IPL, see a lot of turnarounds, is the fact that teams don't have a time to brood, any time to brood. आज मैच खेलेंगे, कल ट्रैवल करेंगे, परसों वापस खेलेंगे. So you forget your losses. Whereas over here, you're playing a match almost on an average after 4 or 5 days. तो आप आज अगर जो हार रहे हो, आप कल का पूरा दिन सल करोगे, परसों आप कैसे भी you'll drag yourself out of the bed back to training. and hope that you find form. And unfortunately for England, they never could get into that stride. I mean, all those players in that team, of course, it can be argued that they're over the hill and aging team and all those things. But यही players एक महीने पहले सब teams को हरा रहे थे. So there is no justification or no explanation as to why they're not able to do that. And apart from the fact it happens in team sport, I guess. It happens something like that. I don't know, again, like the coach isn't inspiring a lot of confidence in terms of, managing the dressing room. So that's something that will be interesting to see whether Mott continues from now until, who knows, until the next whatever tournament, bilateral or series that England will play. But yeah, I mean, Ben Stokes summed it up before the Australia match perfectly. He just said that we've been crap. There is no other explanation for it. And that's what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that hilarious note borrowed by Ben Stokes, I think we can call it a day for this special episode. We'll be back tomorrow where we talk about the India versus New Zealand semi-final. And Mihir is going to be at the Wankhede Stadium covering the match. So hopefully we'll be able to get some bits and bobs out of him about what he's noted at the training, what the players have been saying at the press conferences and things like that. So stay tuned.
Yeah, one thing that at Wankhede that's been true the whole time is that
statue of Sachin Tendulkar that looks like Steve Smith.
Steve Smith, yeah, just avoid that statue and everything should be fine. But no, I think on a serious note, one thing that's been a trend at Wankhede, which I guess will be very important in the first semi-final, is if you're batting second, just see out the first 1 hour, first 10 overs. If you do that, you always have a chance. So it'll be interesting to see how both teams handle that bit. But yeah, we'll be talking about it more on tomorrow's episode.
All right. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back tomorrow. This is me, Amit Kamath, alongside Mihir Vasavda saying goodbye. Thank you for listening to Game Time.
You were listening to Express Sports by The Indian Express. This week's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.